Hey YouTube, what's going on? Whiteout from Team Shadowburst here. It's been a little overdue, but I wanted to bring to you my regional deck that I played at the Las Vegas Regionals about 2.5 weeks ago. I ended up going X2 and coming in 18th place overall. The deck I chose to play was Mermails, and I'll get into the card choices and the reason why I played the deck after the actual profile. So without further ado, let's get started. So I played 2 Megalo. The reason for it is because you only really need 1 Megalo to clear your opponent's life points. 3 is a little excessive, and I am playing Pot of Desires, but I felt that I wouldn't run that much of a risk banishing one or both the copies. It does search the scale, which I was playing double of, and I'll get into that reason why in a second. And overall, its ability to put over 6,000 damage just off of one monster was the main reason you only needed 2. The second one was Teus. Teus is at 3 just because it's the single greatest 1 card out in the Mermail engine, and it allows you to trigger any of your other effects with your Atlanteans and special summon itself for your rank 7 plays. Next, I only played 1 Abyss Pike and 1 Abyss Gun. I didn't need more than 1 gun. I actually only resolved it 1 time during the tournament. And Abyss Pike, I resolved it several times because I was playing Undyne. Sometimes I wish I had it the second, but it didn't come up enough for me to want to put a second one in. Then next to the Atlantean engine, I ran triple Neptibus, the heart and soul of the deck. You have to run 3, no explanation there. I ran triple heavy infantry. The reason for the infantry was because this is single-handedly the best card that they have to crack established boards right now. This card can deal with anything that's established as far as an Infinity or Hope Harbinger for Blue Eyes. It deals with Beatrice, even though they do get the monster off of it, but it does get the less threatening monster out. Then I only played 2 of the Atlantean Marksman. The Marksman really wasn't super important. I actually opted to play 1 at first, but I decided to bump it up to 2 at the last minute to make it so that way I'd have more Atlantean targets. And then of course double Dragoons, no explanation there. I played 1 Aqua Spirit. If there was 1 card in the deck that I would cut, it would have been this card. I just wanted another way to summon a rank 4 or make a synchro play, but it did come up once. It wasn't too important. I sided it out most of my game 2s and 3s. Diva, self-explanatory. Double Gamma Seal. I was going to play 3, but I kept clogging with them way more than what I wanted to during the playtest and before the tournament. And I really only had 1 day to playtest, which was the Friday before the tournament actually happened. So I decided just to play the 2 Gamma Seal, and it worked out fine. Every time I needed the 1, I always drew it when I needed it. Next, I played double Undyne, double Controller. I know this card's a little bit controversial in Water right now, just because of the simple fact is, you know, it does net you the +2 if you're dumping the Dragoons, and it does get you the Controller. And a lot of people are playing the Controllers are also playing the Allure of Darknesses, which I am not. The reason for it is because I felt like Allure of Darkness didn't fix your hand. It just dug deeper into the deck. And when this deck bricks, digging deeper doesn't really help you. You really want to fix your hands. And also, Undyne was like a pseudo Neptibus, so if I opened that, it was basically like opening with another Neptibus that could gain me the same amount of advantage. Double Maxi, because I built this deck to go second, so I want a Maxi in the main. I thought that I was going to be placing or facing a lot of PK Fire, and sure enough, 5 of my rounds were PK Fire. Double Scale. So the reason why I play double Scale was because I am playing 2 Pot of Desires, and I wanted to make sure I at least had 1 in the deck just in case I had to use Pot of Desires to get my engine started. Twin Twister for back row, anything that Marksman or Infantry couldn't handle, especially if they were playing Scales or anything like that. That way I could bait out any of the back row, self-explanatory. Pot of Desires, best +1 card in the game. No self-explanatory there. I only played 2 just because I felt you only needed to use 1 to get this deck going. The second one and the third one would be dead, so it's the only reason I played it. Moray Agreed. Moray Agreed fixed a lot of your hands that brick in this deck if you open the cards that you don't need to open, or multiples of it, like double Gamma Seal or double Undyne or Pike, and you have Teus in your hand and you want to put the Pike back, that card just allows you to do it. So that card, it unbricked me every game that I opened with it. So that with Pot of Desires in your opening hand basically seals the deal for you. Upstart, just because it's 39, actually 40, because I played 41. And double Instant Fusion. Every time I open Instant Fusion, I won the game. There wasn't no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And then 1 for 1 to get to Notibus, Raigeki to clear established boards, and Soul Charge. On to the extra deck, I played the 1 Norden. The Norden, I played this card almost every game, whether it was opening turn or by turn 2 if it made it to turn 2. Tatsunoko, I only summoned him once. Herald of Arclight was actually really good. There was 2 games where I was forced to go second, and that was during game 2 in round 3 and round 5, and I ended up winning those rounds just because I summoned that and the players couldn't do anything. Coral Dragon, just for his popping ability plus his drawing ability. Trish, self-explanatory. Leo, summon that against PK Fire and you win. Dante, I'll explain the Dante in a second. Then we have the Quantum Mech Beast, Ground Pulse. Ground Pulse actually won me a game. Nightmare Shark won me a game. Abyss Dweller, MVP of the rank 4s. That card single-handedly won me all my games. Castell, only summoned it once, but is there. Hope Woven Dragon Spider Shark, never summoned it. Came up during playtesting several times, but I never summoned it in the actual tournament. Same with Honor Arc, it came up in playtesting, but I never actually summoned it. Red Eyes Flare Metal, that card is just, it seals the games if you can't swing for exact game, but they only have 1,000 or less. That card just makes it so that they scoop. And then Abyss Gaios, because he's the best level 7. So in my tournament, I ended up playing 5 PK Fires. I played 2 Blue Eyes, and I played 4 PK Fires, 2 Blue Eyes, and Magic Spectre Demai, and a DDD. My losses were the Magic Spectre Demai because I misplayed in game 3. He set up his scales, and I had a Twin Twister set, and I completely, literally spaced the Twin Twister and didn't space the scales, and if I would have done that, he wouldn't have been able to go off. And then I lost to one of the PK Fires, but it wasn't actually a PK Fire. It was a PK Fluffle, some sort of rank 3 deck that just, it was a really good deck. We went to game 3 and we went to time, and I had Soul Charged before they called time, and unfortunately, because I had Soul Charged, that's what ended up losing me that game. But other than that, all my PK Fire matchups I 2-0'd. Both my Blue Eyes matchups I 2-0'd, and my DDD matchup I 2-1'd. So my DDD matchup was essentially what got me my top. It was my final round, and it was my first time playing against the deck, and the first game went by really quick. So now to some of the card choices. Double Desires, just because I didn't want to draw the third one. Desires to me is probably the best draw card in the game, but you should only play it in decks that can thrive off of only having 2 or 3 cards in hand, and they don't need multiple copies of that card. Like Blue Eyes can pump out some seriously strong boards, but if you hit multiple copies of the same card in that deck, it can kill itself. This deck, you really only essentially need 1 Megalo and 1 Netibus to go off, and 1 Dragoons. That's it. You could generate that off of just 1 Netibus. The reason why I played Undyne and Controller, but with no Allure of Darkness, is not because I didn't have the Allure of Darknesses. I actually do. It's because the Undyne essentially was a 5th Netibus, and this deck you want to get to Netibus. There was games where I'd open Undyne and I wouldn't have any other waters in my hand, but at the end of the turn I would have established a board that could kill them, and there was nothing they could do about it. I didn't miss the Allure of Darkness because Allure of Darkness was just one of those cards that if I drew it, I had to have controller in my hand in order to successfully resolve it, and the probability of that happening to me was just too low, especially since I was only running 2 Undyne and 2 controller. I felt like Mermail Agreed was a much better option because drawing multiples of any of these cards can brick you. The only one that is not a brick card is Dragoons. And Mermail of Greed was the best way to unbrick your hands, especially if you had multiple Megalos and only one other water to discard for that Megalo. That was essentially a neg because you weren't going to get any plussing off of having that Megalo in the graveyard, especially if you didn't have an Abysteus to search the gun to special summon that second Megalo. So that right there came up a lot of times in playtesting. But overall, I felt like the deck performed very solid. I would have ended up going 9-1 if I wouldn't have misplayed against the Magic Spectre player. I felt like there was nothing I could have done about the Phantom Knight Fluffle player because I had already soul charged the turn before. But overall, I felt like the deck performed solid. I'll tell you one thing though, the double scale took a lot of people by surprise. Having a Megalo at 4,000 with double scale and they have to use 2 spells to out it really hurts them. There was a couple of games where I had double scale on Abysteus and they just scooped. My game 1 against my the PK Phantom Knight player. He unloaded his board and I went for game in the second turn of game 2 and he managed to prevent me from killing him. He still had like 2,300 life points left, and then I soul charged, brought everything back, and just built a huge board with Abyss Dweller and I think Leo and Abysteus, and Abysteus had a scale on it, and I also had a marksman on the field just to have that extra monster out, and then he tried to do his things, but with Gaios and Dweller he couldn't really do anything, so he just passed turn, and then I drew into a controller. I overlaid with the marksman and summoned Nightmare Shark and selected Gaios and attacked him for game. He was like, I forgot that Nightmare Shark could do that because they usually only use it on itself. Overall, I felt like this deck was the best choice to face the meta at this time, before ABCs and before full power DDDs and before Invasion of Vengeance comes out. Water is definitely always going to be one of the best decks, and it's one of those sleeper decks that it's just going to lay and wait until it gets new support, until the format's right for it to be played again. If I had to say I would make any changes, one would be the Aqua Spirit. The Aqua Spirit was probably the worst deck choice in the deck. I would probably change that out for Poseidra Atlantean Dragon because I feel like having another card to send off of Neptibus, he can create boards of 9,600 damage, which off of just 2 cards, and it's really insane. And I did that during playtesting, but I just didn't like the feel of it, so that's why I opted for that, but I would go back to that. I would also take out the 101 and the Hope Harbinger. Just for the simple fact is I didn't really summon them, and I would have rather played Digustal Emerald and either a Diamond Dyer or another Castel over them. The Dante I actually summoned and used it to win a game against a Blue Eyes player because I had nothing left and he had nothing on field, and I had 2 controllers in hand, and because he couldn't destroy the controller in 1 turn, I used it, milled 3, and swung for 25 to end the game, and that won me the match, which was surprising. But everything in the main deck and everything in the extra deck was built around the side deck. I felt like I was going to be playing PK Fire for the most part throughout the day, and I did. Quick note on the side deck, it's not anything special. It was really built just to clear established boards. 1 Gamma Seal, double Veiler. I never used the Veilers once. I wouldn't play them again. This deck just doesn't need them. Double Flying Sea. Used it once, and the one time I did use it, I ended up getting trished. Double Ghost Reaper. I used this in all of my PK Fire matchups at least once, and it won the third Twin Twister, Darkhold, established boards, system down for Cleatomize and Cosmo, which could have been a deck, but I didn't encounter any, and then 2 Anti-Spell and 1 Emptiness, just to round that out. It was a really generic one. I was kind of fearing the PK Fire matchup because during my playtesting I was losing horribly to that deck, like absolutely horribly. Almost every round I lost 2-0, and then it just seemed like this day everything managed to fall into place. But yeah, so thanks for the time. Please check out the channel. Please check out the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and if you have any suggestions, please let us know. Whiteout, signing out.